Hey guys, welcome back to the Vulcan Blog. Today we're talking about the 5 best methods to use blood flow restriction to optimize your training and to enhance your body. We've got our trusty manual cuffs and our good Bluetooth cuffs. We're gonna go over both of them today and how you can use these methods to enhance what moves you. But first, before we get into that, make sure you like this video, subscribe to our channel, and ring that notification bell so you don't miss out on any opportunities to enhance what moves you. Whether you have your Bluetooth cuffs, which we have the Saga fitness cuffs here, or manual cuffs, which we have the Smart Cuffs by Smart Tools cuffs here, you can do all of these methods with either cuff. Some things are easier to do with the Bluetooth cuffs, particularly the recovery portion, but some things we can be more accurate using manual cuffs, particularly the power portion and the strength portion. We like to use both because we are BFR nerds, so we use them both. In this video, we're focusing on these standard protocols that we have on BFR. There's been tons of research done over the past 35 plus years to try to quantify how we actually use BFR and to standardize it as best as possible to create protocols. So we're going to talk about those protocols today, but you can individualize blood flow restriction as much as you want to. You can play with the rep schemes, you can play with your rest, you can play with the pressure of the cuff, the occlusion of the cuff. You can play with all of that in order to get the best, most personalized workout for yourself, but you've got to know what you're doing. And a great place to start is with these tried and true protocols that we know work and we know improve your strength, power, aerobic capacity, recovery, and your ability to prep for competition. And by the way, those are the 5 things we're about to get into with this video and talk about. At the end of the video, whether you have the Bluetooth cuffs, whether you have manual cuffs, whatever you have, I'm going to show you how you fit those. We're going to make sure that the cuffs are fit perfectly to your body so that you're not missing out on anything when you use them to train. So the first method we're going to talk about, and this is likely how BFR got its start in America. Bodybuilders were doing this a ton because they found it gives them a massive pump. So the first method we want to talk about is that hypertrophy training. The hypertrophy training with blood flow restriction is really similar to the resistance training, is to actually the strength training portion of this. But for hypertrophy, we're going to follow those traditional schemes and we're going to go a little bit lighter than we would. But anytime you do BFR, we'll use the example of a strict press with the cuffs. You are going to, and I don't have the cuffs on right now, if we're doing arms, you're going to do a 2-second tempo. So say we're doing hypertrophy training for our shoulders, we're gonna do a strict press, we're gonna go 1, 2, up, 1, 2, down, 1, 2, up, 1, 2, down. That is the gold standard for hypertrophy. Our rep schemes are gonna be 30, 15, 15, 15. That's 30 reps, 3 sets of 15 afterward. You got about 30 seconds to a minute rest in between, and you got to have that 2-second tempo at the least. And that is gonna lead us into the strength portion. If you're doing BFR for strength, you can go a little bit heavier. And the cool thing about it is we know if we're doing BFR appropriately, if I'm gonna use the back squat, I'm gonna go through my 30 reps with that 1, 2, 1, 2 second tempo. I'm gonna go all the way through it with 30 seconds rest, 30 seconds to 1 minute rest in between before I hit my 3 sets of 15 afterward. And we know that when we're doing BFR like this, instead of having to do a 400, 500 pound back squat to hit our max stimulus, we can do BFR at an 80% occlusion for the lower extremity, and we can have a similar effect with only having 100, 135, 155 pounds on the bar. That's great to deload the joints, and it's also great so you don't tax your CNS so much. The second method that we're gonna talk about with utilizing blood flow restriction training is for aerobic capacity. We've got some amazing studies talking about how we can improve our VO2 max, improve our body's usage of oxygen, improve our overall cardio by utilizing blood flow restriction with aerobic capacity or with some type of erg, some type of machine. So what the protocol is for this is you want to do a 25-minute erg. I like to use the bike. I think the bike's the easiest thing to use. But a 25-minute bike with our heart rate above a certain target heart rate. Now you can do all the math, but really as long as your heart rate is above somewhere between 105 to 110, you're gonna have the benefits that you want. Now you're thinking, man, a heart rate above 110, that's a super easy bike. Absolutely. But when you have your cuffs on for an 80% occlusion while you're riding that bike, you're gonna get to the 20-minute mark and you're gonna think, when is this thing gonna be done? Because this is miserable. This is the primary way that I train in my cuffs. I typically do this after I've gone through a workout. I'll put the cuffs on, I'll do my 25-minute aerobic piece, and it is brutal. My legs are already fatigued because I just worked out, and this is just adding to it, and it's a huge recovery tool along with the aerobic capacity benefits as well. The third method we love to do to utilize blood flow restriction training is for power. This is one of the underutilized areas of BFR because it's not as well known. Everybody typically knows the 30, 15, 15, 15 standardized protocol for strength. They might know the 25-minute protocol for aerobic capacity, but this is an interesting one. So what the research indicates is you go through your sets, whatever you want to do. Say we're doing a 5x5 deadlift here and we're building in weight. Well, I'm gonna do my 5 deadlifts. Normally, I've got my cuffs on here just because it's easier to keep them on, but they're deflated. We're not using them right now. I'm gonna go through my 5 deadlifts like I normally would. And then after my 5th, I'm gonna step back and I'm gonna turn my cuffs on at 100% occlusion. 100% occlusion is gonna be that in-between space before my next set. I'm gonna do that for 5 minutes. The barbell or the object we're moving accelerates quicker than it does for people who aren't doing BFR in between. So if you are someone who gets stuck at the bottom, maybe it's hard to get the bar off the ground for the deadlift, the squat, you're just stuck at the bottom all the time, this could be some great training that you could do to get out of the hole and to be able to explode and accelerate the barbell quicker. The 4th method we have for blood flow restriction training is recovery. And I think BFR is one of the most underutilized tools for recovery that we have. Everybody wants to go to those passive modalities in order to recover, when really we still need to be active. We still need to increase blood flow to have a good recovery session. To make this happen, we like to use the blood flow restriction cuffs. So the most research protocol that we found for BFR is doing a 45-minute blood flow restriction session, 5 minutes on, 5 minutes off. For the 5 minutes on, you're gonna have the cuffs at 100% occlusion. If you're using the manual cuffs, you're gonna find that yourself. If you're using the Bluetooth cuffs, it's gonna calibrate and find it for you. But we're gonna have them on at 100% occlusion for 5 minutes. Then we're gonna deflate for 5 minutes and then re-inflate for 5 minutes. It's 5 rounds of that setup. The gold standard of this isn't just to have the cuffs inflated at 100%, it's also to have the cuffs inflated and we're gonna have some type of isometric contraction occurring. Now you could sit there for 5 minutes and squeeze your quad and relax. Squeeze your quad and relax. That's not very realistic. You're not gonna do it. What we like to do is put electrical stimulation units on our quads, or if we're doing it for our arms, we'd put them on our triceps or our biceps. Put the E-stim units on your leg and let that create the isometric contraction for you. I like to use a high Russian setting as really as much as I can tolerate to incorporate that isometric contraction. We have 2 devices we love. We love using the Compex units. We love using Firefly, which is kind of a new thing on the scene. If you're not familiar with it, we'll put those links in the description. But we like to use both of those to increase the isometric contraction that's happening while the cuffs are inflated. When the cuffs aren't inflated, cut the E-stim off. You don't need it. The gold standard is that with the cuffs on, E-stim going, and this is great recovery, utilizing this. People who use this prior to doing their next workout. Let's say you've got a big workout on Tuesday and then on Wednesday you're going into another workout. Doing these in between those sessions could help. Even if you have 3 or 4 workouts within the same day and you're able to get a session in of BFR before your next workout, you're gonna perform better compared to what you would have done without the cuffs. Now I will say, if you're gonna do this before you work out, before an event, before a competition, make sure you've got about 50 minutes between when you take the cuffs off that final time and the event. You want to make sure that your body's ready for the competition that's about to happen. And we're gonna put this other thing in recovery, although it's not quite recovery. This is IPC. We just talked about IPC a minute ago with recovery, but IPC can stand for ischemic preconditioning, so before you work out, or ischemic post-conditioning after you work out. Both of them are either recovery or prep. But what we've seen in the literature is that people who do IPC preconditioning 7 to 9 days prior to their competition, prior to their event, whatever that is, perform better than those who haven't done it. So if you're an athlete, if you're a track athlete, if you're a CrossFit athlete, weightlifter, whatever it is, before going into your competition, if you can get a good week and a half of this IPC in for whatever you're doing, you're gonna perform better than the folks out there on the stage who haven't done this. I highly recommend utilizing BFR in this way. You're gonna get more out of your body compared to the people who don't. Okay guys, so I'm gonna show you how to go through the fitment for your cuffs. So with these cuffs, I've got the Bluetooth Saga cuffs on. We're also gonna go through the fitment for the manual cuffs. The manual cuffs is a little bit more complicated. It takes a few more steps, but the manual cuffs tend to be a little bit more accurate because you can really dial it in. You can know exactly what your occlusion is. You can know exactly what your max occlusion rate is. The Bluetooth cuffs, they do a good job of calibrating. They find that as well, but it's gonna be a little bit more play in how you do it, but we see good research as long as you're able to stay within that range. So I will pull the app up. I've got both the cuffs on, and you can tell that the app's gonna take you through a BFR screening. It's just gonna make sure you're not putting yourself at risk here. So you go through the app, go through the screening. So it went through the high risk screenings first. The high risk factor is going to take you through the medium risk factors, and finally it's going to take you through the low risk factors. So we're going to go, we finished the screening, and now we've got them set up. We're going to hit pair the cuffs. So now it's going to automatically find my cuffs. One of them cut off on me. You may have to hit the button, turn it back on. You can see the other one popped up. So now I'm going to go through the screening. I'm going to click my cuffs. It's a really cool app. It tells you how much battery you have. And while I'm going through this, I want to make sure that I'm fully relaxed as this thing goes through its calibration. I even tell people to not talk. So I'm going to shut up while this thing's calibrating, and I'm still talking, still calibrating. It should work just fine, but I'll be quiet. And you can hear that compressor kick on. It's calibrating to find my max occlusion rate. It's trying to find out right now what occlusion rate requires to cut off circulation to my arm. It's looking for 100%. So it found it. It's telling me my max occlusion rate is 239. So all I do there is I'm going to use the calibrated value, and it's going to take me into the workout. And you can see here, it's got the options that I can go at a 50% threshold for arms, which is really the gold standard for utilizing the arms if you're going to use some of these standard procedures we've talked about, or I can customize it if I want to get fancy. Okay, so I'm just going to confirm the pressure. I'm already calibrated, so I just hit begin workout, and you should hear both cuffs kick on. There they both go. So I'm inflating. It's going to take me to 50%. And once I'm to 50%, I can do whatever workout I want to do. So that is how you sync your Bluetooth cuffs. You have a different set of Bluetooth cuffs. It may be different, but it's still going to standardize. It's going to take you through a screening. It's going to find your max occlusion rate, and they're going to be able to work out from that screening. Okay, so now to get you fit for your manual cuffs, I'm using these Smart Cuffs 2.0 cuffs. Since these, they have a 3.0 and a 4.0. They're both great cuffs. Maybe a little bit easier to use in this. The 4.0 is Bluetooth, I believe. But for the manual cuffs, again, manual cuffs are great. You have a lot of play with manual cuffs if you know how to fit, and that's what you learn in this video. So I've got my ultrasound kit right here. All of this stuff I will link in the description to how you can get your own, because you're definitely gonna need an ultrasound Doppler. You're gonna need some form of a medium. We're just gonna use BioFreeze. For some reason I have like 100 sticks of this lying around. So I'm gonna use BioFreeze, and we have our ultrasound Doppler here, okay? So, and I'll link in the description to some good Dopplers we like to use. So we're gonna set this up. So what you're gonna do, oh yeah, also you're gonna need your blood pressure cuff, of course, or your blood pressure pump, not cuffs. Cuffs are on. So we're gonna take our Doppler, we're gonna get it all hooked up and set up. Okay, so we are set up. Now, what we're gonna do is we are going to try to find, maybe best to take your watch off while you're doing this, is we are going to find our pulse. We're gonna find our radial pulse, which is on the outside. If you have trouble thinking about it, think ulna close to you, radius away. So I'm gonna put a little medium on here, feel that wonderful burn of BioFreeze. It's good. And I'm gonna have my hand out to the side here. Maybe you can see this in the video, I think you can. And I'm just gonna rest my arm. We want this to be at rest. I have both cuffs on. Why do I have both cuffs on? I'm trying to reiterate, we always do both limbs. You never just do one limb, always do both. So I'm gonna have them both on. And whatever pressure you find in one limb, it's more than likely gonna be the same pressure in the other limb unless you have some crazy hypertrophy difference. So I've got my Doppler on. You probably just heard it kick on. We're gonna plug the pump up to the cuff. So I'm here, I'm going to find there it is. That is my pulse. So now what I'm gonna do to find this on myself is I found my pulse. I'm gonna take my pump and I'm gonna pump it up. The arms, typically, you're gonna find an occlusion. The ideal occlusion 50%, it's gonna be somewhere around 80%. So I'm gonna go ahead and pump this up to about 100, and we're gonna measure. Still got a pulse. Need to go more, because while we're looking for the max occlusion pressure. So now I've got it up to about 150. Nothing. I now have a fully occluded limb. So now what we do, and this is the fun part, you're gonna get the cuff over to your hand. You're gonna slowly turn the switch, turn the valve to release, and you're gonna watch that pressure cuff as you release. Oh, I hear it. Started to hear around 122. I'm trying to get it to where you can see it. I don't know if you can see that, but I started hearing my pulse again around 122. So now 122 is my max occlusion pressure. So I'm gonna back this down to right above 60%, maybe 65, and that's gonna be where I operate with these upper extremity cuffs on. You can see the veins are happening here. This is what happens, you put the BFR cuffs on, you get a huge pump, and we're gonna start doing the upper extremity exercises with this, and this is how you fit yourself when you have manual cuffs. That is the 5 most effective ways to train blood flow restriction, or I guess you could say the 5 ways that we have the most research about. Again, research is stuck on those protocols. What are some ways we can systematize training blood flow restriction? I'm glad they've done it. Now, as a BFR practitioner, as someone who really understands this, there's so much nuance that you can get to, and it's just like any good strength and conditioning program, you individualize it for the person. If you're interested in getting your own BFR program, you've got your own set of cuffs, you're ready to start training BFR exclusively, or you're training BFR to supplement whatever you're looking for, we have programs and templates online. I've created a manual that will walk you through every single step of how to use your BFR cuffs. You can go through the manual, you can take a look at all of it. It has Excel sheets set up with your program in there. You find your pressures just like we did today. You input your pressures. It has a calculation to find your heart rate. It literally does it all. And it has exercises laid out for lower extremity and upper extremity, depending on what you're trying to do. And you can use this to get the human growth hormone bump. You can use it to get the hypertrophy bump. Whatever you want to do, you can set your program up to help enhance what moves you, to help optimize whatever you're trying to do. Also in the program, it lists out all of the research behind blood flow restriction training and everything we've put into that program. There's literally over 20 different articles cited in the program to ensure that we're doing the most researched methods of blood flow restriction training. So if that's something you're interested in, check out the links below. We'll have it linked. We'll also have the link for all the cuffs that we use today, for the ultrasound, for even the biofreeze. If you need a medium, literally you can use anything that's gelatinous for a medium. That works just fine. I hope you're able to walk away from this video with a better understanding of how to use BFR, how to train your BFR cuffs. We have too much good research behind it that you should be doing. And this is something we all should be doing. We all should be training if we're serious about our training, our performance, recovery, whatever it is. If you're an athlete, you should be doing BFR. So hope this is helpful, guys. If you have any questions, hit us in the comment. Again, it helps us out a ton. If you can like this video, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell. That helps our channel tremendously. If you have any questions, again, we'll be hanging out in the comments for a little bit. We'll try to answer them. All right, guys, enhance what moves you.